Do you ever use a gun that everyone says is good, but when you use it, it's just kind of average? Or do you ever maybe see someone use a gun in a YouTube video and you think, how the heck can they shoot people at that range? Well, this guide aims to alleviate those sorts of problems, because this is going to show you how to make a meta build on any gun without having to search it up. Because in this game, attachments can be the difference between a gun being really, really good and a gun being really, really bad. Now, having the wrong attachments on your gun can make the gun feel like it doesn't shoot as far as it should. It can make your gun feel like you can only get 1 kill per death. Like, you know when for the life of you, you're just playing and you can't get a streak going and you just keep dying? Having the wrong attachments can actually make you feel that way. Another thing the wrong attachments can do is it can also make your gun feel like it actually kills slower than the stats indicate. Even just recoil attachments can make your gun feel like it's killing at a different speed. And it's really, really hard just by looking at the stats to indicate like exactly how the gun's gonna feel. So first things first, this is something that will help you decide which attachments to not use. Here are all the attachments in the game. Now, here are the ones that are actually worth using. I know some of you probably just saw an attachment that you use disappear, but really these are better. I have 1,000 kills with every gun and these are the only attachments I use, because all the other ones either trade off stats that you need for stats that you don't, or are straight up downgrades of these ones. And when I say downgrades, I mean they're literally worse at everything, better at nothing. I won't go into detail and show it off, I just am going to have to say trust me on this one, and if you keep watching I'll be explaining why these attachments are really, really good. First of all, we have these guys. These are what I call velocity increases because they literally just make the bullets out of your gun travel faster. Now, I believe these are one of the hardest attachments to know when I should be using it, because the feeling that tells you should use it is very similar with the feeling of having too much recoil. And that is because the effect of having low velocity is your damage at range will be a lot lower because you'll be missing shots, which is also a symptom of having too much recoil, right? If I have too much recoil, I'll miss a shot, making my damage feel lower. So it's hard to tell when to use these guns, but if you think of guns like the UMP, this gun has really, really low recoil, which means that it's a laser beam, but I feel like it underperforms at range. This is just due to my personal downfall of I don't lead my shots very much with this gun, making me miss shots at range and effectively do less damage. But with these barrels, I hit all of my range shots with the UMP, making my damage feel higher. Now I wanted to get these ones out of the way first, just purely because these are very situational attachments. I only actually equip them on the UMP, but honestly there are probably some other SMGs that you could probably do the same thing with. So if you think that you're underperforming at range with an SMG, these attachments could help you. Now granted, if you've been playing for the first time only in the past couple of days, all SMGs got their range nerfed, so maybe don't equip these right away and just play a little bit longer beforehand. Alrighty, moving on. Now, these two attachments are what I call transitional attachments. I don't generally use these attachments once I have all the other ones, like the other kind of attachments, but these do help you get the amount of kills you need to achieve those other attachments. So these are really good off of like fresh, you've just gotten a gun. These are attachments that are pretty good to equip once you unlock them, but you'll generally be putting them down for better ones. The bipod of course might seem like a good idea even with all the good attachments unlocked, but honestly the best grips and barrels achieve a similar effect without you having to prone. And the compensator, I generally find myself switching to better recoil barrels when I unlock them. I don't know why. I also think that the compensator could be used even on a gun with 1,000 kills, but I've just found over time that I generally don't equip it. Not that you can't though, I actually do recommend the compensator even then. And something I really quickly wanted to address is people often say that they don't use the compensator because it has a downside of accuracy, it makes you a little bit less accurate, which in my honest opinion, after getting 1,000 on every gun and using all the attachments a lot, I have not found the value in the accuracy stat like I do in other games. I don't know if it's bugged or if it just has a low effect, but I've actually never had an accuracy problem that wasn't solved by recoil changes. Yeah, I would not worry about the downside of accuracy on the compensator. I really do feel like it's overstated and it actually won't affect you that bad. Yeah, that's all I gotta say about these two. Moving on to the more meta attachments. Now the heavy barrel and the long barrel. These two attachments are either useless on some guns or a must pick on others. And when I say a must pick, I really mean it. When you get the damage values that are at 24, 33 or 49 on a gun, this attachment will become the must pick because it will make your gun's time to kill on an enemy massively reduced because your gun will need to land one less bullet to get a kill. Recently, all the guns that had this had their damage thresholds changed, so you now don't need the heavy barrel. So for right now, this is a bit more of a tidbit and doesn't really help, but in the future where more guns get added, it might be big, so keep it in mind. As for guns that these barrels affect right now in the game, the AK-74, HK-419 and the AUG A3 are really good examples. On these weapons, if you equip the heavy or the long barrel, they'll become able to 3-shot kill if you only land 1 headshot, which means that these guns increase their DPS a lot if you hit a headshot, especially considering these guns are generally really easy to hit headshots due to their low recoil and fire rate. Now, I cannot speak to the usefulness of the heavy barrel and the long barrel on other guns, but generally will make your gun better against armor. But honestly, once again, I only truly recommend it on the AUG, the AK-74 and the HK-419. Quickly, I just want to mention the difference between the two. The heavy barrel will make all your stats on your recoil slightly worse, but it'll give you the damage bonus, whereas the long barrel makes your vertical recoil way worse, your horizontal a little bit better, and gives you the damage bonus. So for really, really long shooting, I'd use the long barrel, and if you're on a close range map, use the heavy barrel. Alright, so these are your left and right recoil attachments, aka your horizontal recoil attachments. Are you ever using a full auto weapon and you're really trying to get those long range sprays, like when you see a YouTuber use like a red dot and just full auto people from like ages away? Generally, these are the attachments that help people do that. When you are controlling recoil, it's a lot easier to pull down to counter recoil and a lot harder to choose whether to pull left or right. And this left and right problem becomes a really big deal when someone is far away, because even a slight amount of left or right recoil can put you off target. Now, the BCM Gunfighter has 0 downsides whatsoever, and it helps your horizontal recoil more than any other grip. The Flash Harder, however, helps your recoil by a lot, like an absolute crap ton. It's the best out of any barrel, but the recoil that it adds onto your vertical scale, like your up and down, is much, much worse. Due to this reason, I actually don't end up using the Flash Harder on many weapons. I personally use it on the new UMP and the new M110 since the patches, because I just find myself trying to squeeze range out of these guns more than others. The UMP right now doesn't have as good as range as it used to in my opinion, but with the Flash Harder it's actually a lot easier. And the new M110, the vertical recoil on it is so low that I don't mind making it a bit bigger to make my horizontal better. And that gun already slaps at range, so I just try to extend it out even further. If you're a new player, I actually don't reckon these attachments will help you a lot, but if you're a high kills per minute player with a lot of skill, these might be the best attachments for you, because your recoil control is probably already pretty good in the vertical scale, and it will really help you get extra range on your guns and have more situations where if someone's on your screen, you can just kill them. Pretty much is how I'd explain it. So yeah, these are the horizontal recoil attachments. And these are your vertical recoil attachments, i.e. they help the up and down recoil. Vertical recoil is generally useful when you pick up a gun that you hear is really good, but then you use it and it feels like it kills slower than what people say. These attachments help with that a lot. This is because generally when you get that feeling, you're missing even just a single shot just here and there, and that actually makes your time to kill way longer. This attachment will generally help you stay accurate and not miss any shots. Now, one quick thing to mention, unlike horizontal recoil, this will not extend your range at all, really generally. Normally it will just make your time to kill faster within your gun's range. This means that single fire guns, slow fire rate guns generally get a lot out of these attachments, because slow fire rate and single fire guns don't have too much horizontal recoil and already have a lot of range. So this grip / barrel will be really good on DMRs and the AUG. Often you'll see builds that I recommend to new players include these attachments, because they can drastically improve your time to kill within your range. Another quick thing to mention though is that high kills per minute players might not find these attachments useful because their vertical recoil can be tackled with practice, whereas horizontal recoil can only be tackled by either slowing your shots or attachments. So if you're high KPM, maybe stick away from these, but if you're a newer player, give these a go and see how many more kills you get. So these attachments are what I call mixers. The reason I call them mixers is because they are a mix between vertical and horizontal recoil. So the SC5 is a clean mix between horizontal and vertical, but it makes you reload slightly worse, but I can't stress how little difference it normally makes. This grip is a really good for when you aren't struggling with anything in particular, but you just want an attachment to put on your gun because attachments do make the gun better. The one on the right is the B25 URK. Now this is for really good for if you're only getting 1 kill per life and you're struggling to get a streak, or alternatively if you're a very very, very aggressive player who's already good at controlling recoil. This grip makes your reload speed way, way faster and only has a slight worse recoil than the SE5. Still, the recoil on the URK, the one on the right, is still better than having no attachments at all, so you really should equip this either way. You will see this grip a lot with high skill players and the high kills per minute players, because for them recoil doesn't matter as much. This grip on the right really is one of a kind. Now, the grip on the far left, the stable grip, this is also one of a kind, but not for a good reason. This is the only grip that improves your first shot recoil by an amount that matters. So that actually, you might be surprised here, but that actually is for very niche situations and isn't very good normally. So the stable grip is where you want the SE5, but you only want it for the first shot kick, because your first shot will have less recoil than the SE5 grip for vertical and horizontal, but once again, as I said, only for the first shot. The only gun I can actually recommend using this on is the M110 DMR, because it's a 2-shot kill, meaning the only recoil that matters is the first shot. So it's actually really, really good on that gun. I actually personally missed this when I first used it, and the comments opened me up to it. Thank you guys in the comments. That was like 100% correct. The stable grip would be better on the M110. One thing I want to mention about the stable grip, to my knowledge, it does not make all the shots of a single fire gun lower recoil. I'm pretty sure, I only tested this a really long time ago, so I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure with a DMR, it does not make every shot, it's only the first shot. But at the same time, it may have been changed, and when I tested the shooting range, I honestly couldn't tell if it still did with all the shots, or if it did with every single shot. So for now, I wouldn't recommend bringing it over other grips. And a quick other thing I wanted to mention, sorry for the bad flow here, but the stable grips vertical recoil reduction for the first shot is actually less than the vertical recoil reduction for the first shot with the actual vertical grip. So if you're having trouble with vertical recoil on DMRs, don't equip the stable grip to try and make the first 2 shots easier, just equip the vertical grip. I really do recommend the vertical grip over the stable grip in most situations, and also the SE5. So anyways, these are the mixer grips. These are really, really good, honestly, bar the stable grip. The SE5 and the ERK are actually the ones I use most often, just because I've found that I'm getting better at a lot of things in the game, so I naturally started gravitating towards these grips most often. Now, I'm only quickly going to mention these attachments, but pretty much these two I've left in this category, not because they're actually similar to each other, but because they didn't fit in any of the other categories. So first of all, the Ranger, by a good margin, the best choice for all sniper rifles. I just want to get that out of the way. The Ranger barrel for all sniper rifles is fantastic. It ups the sniper's damage and also the velocity by a lot, more than any of the other attachments. I just recommend the Ranger over any other attachment. You could equip the short suppressor as well, but I actually would recommend the Ranger for being very consistent. Short suppressor if you're trying to run the sniper on the close map. Now, speaking of running snipers on the close map and using the suppressor is actually really, really good for if you're running any gun on a close range map. If your gun doesn't require the heavy or the long barrel and you're on a close range map and your recoil control is already really, really good, I actually recommend running a suppressor. Like if you're on Frugus or Salhan or even Sandy Sunset on Domination, the short suppressor will be really, really good because you don't really need recoil, so you may as well gain the benefit of enemies not knowing where you are when you shoot. Anyways, moving on. Now I'm really quickly going to label all of these. I'm just going to start talking about them top to bottom. I didn't include the searchlight because I just believe that it doesn't really have a use. I know for nighttime, I know, but I do not believe the searchlight has much of a use. So we got the flashlight, which is really, really good at nighttime if you're on a night vision map. Turning on your flashlight will blind night vision users if you aim at them, which is really fantastic. The rangefinder is really, really good on bolt actions if you want to land the first shot headshot on somebody, because you can just tell where someone is by looking at them, see the meters, hold alt, scroll wheel up, and change your zeroing to the exact meters on the rangefinder. Next you have the red laser, and I'm going to include the green laser too. These are fantastic at making you hit more shots with hip fire. I personally bring them pretty often, pretty much all the time, and I forget to turn them on, as people keep telling me in the comments. There is no point to having them and keeping it off. No, yeah, you definitely do keep them on. They will help you out a bunch, and enemies don't generally see them. I personally have never I've never seen an enemy's laser and noticed it. I can't think of a single time where I have. So yeah, I would turn them on, because in this game the hip fire isn't the middle of your screen, there's like a circle where all the bullets can go. It's actually where the barrel of your gun is pointing, and this laser will help you know where that is exactly. It's fantastic. I actually do think the lasers are underlooked. Now the tactical flashlight. This flashlight means that whenever you hit right click or I aim your gun, the flashlight will turn on. This is good for nighttime if you don't want your flashlight on all the time, but you want to, when you aim at an enemy to shoot them, for it to blind them. This flashlight's super good for nighttime. But another thing is, if you hit T to turn it off, it doesn't actually turn it off. All it does is switch it to turn on when you're not aiming, which is kind of annoying because that means that constantly you have to be hitting T to try and flip it on and off and on and off. Whereas with the regular flashlight, you hit T for when you want it on, T for when you want it off. Tactical flashlight is a little harder to manage, but it's really, really good for when you get jumped at nighttime and get scared. And yeah, that's when I bring the tactical flashlight. So that is all the attachments and their use cases explained. If you feel like I missed something, then I probably did. So please leave a comment and I'll be reading them all as always. I love reading all the comments. And if this guide helped, please leave a like on the vid. It actually helps like a bunch for getting around, especially to more newer players. And I really wanted to make this video to help people understand attachment choice and help people make their own builds for certain guns. And I know I said I'd bring up the sites, but I actually, mid making this video, realized that I want to do a separate video that will happen to cover them. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video and see you later.